Hello everybody, I will start my today's another live coding session. So in my today's practice, I will solve this question. Read n characters given read4. Okay. So in this question, I'm giving a file and assumes that you can read the file using a given method read4. Implement the method to read n characters. Given a file and assume this file is implement. Okay, I see. So I will implement read method to read n characters using the given method read4 to read the file. Okay, and about the read4 method, the API read4 reads 4 consecutive characters from file, then writes those characters into the buffer array buff4. Buff4 is something I give when I call the read4 method. So my understanding is that read4 method mutate the buff4 array, yeah, and writes the read characters. Okay. The return value is the number of actual characters read, and this returns an integer which represents the number of characters which it read. Note that read4 has its own file pointer, much like file fb in C. Yep, this is my understanding. Okay. So definition of read4, the parameter is char array and returns the integer. Buff4 is the destination of the source. Okay. The result from read4 will be copied to buff4. Yep. I see. So anyway, I will give the list and the element is filled in with the red characters. Every time with only 4 characters. Okay. And method read. This is the method I will implement. So by using the read4 method, implement the method read that reads n characters from file and store it in the buffer array buff. I see. So I will, just like the read4 method, I will read the characters from file and put it in the buffer. Okay. Consider that you cannot manipulate file directory. The return value is the number of actual characters read. Okay. Yeah. But what is n? Reads n characters. I see. Try to read n characters, but in some cases there are less characters only. So in that case, I will return that integer. Okay. Consider that you cannot manipulate the file directory. The file is only accessible for read4 but not for read. Okay. The read function will only be called once for each test case. You may assume the destination buffer array above is guaranteed to have enough space for storing n characters. Okay, I see. Okay, so what I can do, I think, is to, I think it's pretty simple. So for example, if file is abc and n is 4, so I will call the read method with some buffer and n. Oh, and n is 4. Okay. So when I call this, what I should do inside the read method is call read4 method with some buffer, right? Buff4. So I have to initiate buff4 here. I don't want to continue this because I'm just, coding so sloppy code. But basically what I can do is something like this. yeah, this is one call for buff4. So in this case, because file length is 3, this is enough. But in case the file is like ABCDE, when it has 5 characters, and if I write to 5, I see. So n is 4. This signifies that I'd like to read 4 characters, but it's impossible because there aren't. So I will just update the buff with ABC and return 3. Okay, no. And in the case when n is say 6 and file is ABC, the result doesn't change. I will, put ABC in the buffer and I will return 3 because I can't read 6 characters. But in the case, for example, n is 5 and file is ABCDEFGHI or something, in this case, I have to read it twice. Firstly to read ABCD and next time to read E, and then I could read the 5 characters. So I put ABCDE into the given buffer and I will return 5. So that's what I would do. Okay, so yeah, I think my understanding of the implementation of the methods is quite clear, and I have some, image on what to be implemented. So let me, think of the approach. So I think given n, like n is 4 or maybe 3, I have to do 0 times read4 call. Yeah. And if n is 3, I have to do 1 times. But if n is 4, I have to do 1 time. N is 5, I have to do 2 times. Blah blah blah. Yeah. But I would say this is up to n times, because if the file is already empty, then I don't have to read it. So how can I know the file is already empty or not? I think I can say, after reading the buffer, I will take a look at the last element in the buff4 method, which I gave as the argument. And I can say, if this buff4, the last element is none, which means that there is nothing to be read anymore. Obviously, it's possible that, say, a file has only 4 characters and I call read4 once, and I just get ABCD as a buffer4. In that case, the last element is not none, it's D, but file is already read. Yeah, so it's possible. Yeah, so I also have to take care of that. Okay. Yeah, I will think of this in my implementation. But that being said, I think I'm ready to start my implementation, because my understanding of the methods and also, yeah, some, critical things are already explained. So I will start my implementation. Okay, so in this question, I'm given buffer and n, so If n is 0, I have to read 0 times. Okay. Okay, so this is the read4 count. Oh, sorry, I actually don't have to do this. 5 ended is equal to buffer 4 not 1 is none. Yeah, I just can do if this returns 4 or not. No, less than 4. In this case, I finished reading the file. Yep. And what I have to do from here is I've read the read char count, and now buffer 4, in the buffer 4, the char is stored. So I have to put them into the buffer. But I obviously need the pointer of the current indexing buffer. So I will read the char, but let me see. Oh wait, sorry, I don't have to do this. So this is enough. Okay. And obviously, if char is none, I have to finish. Yep. Okay, so this is it. And I will return the total count I've read. So next indexing buffer is exactly the number of characters I've read already. For example, if I haven't read any, character, yeah, next indexing buffer should be 0. And if I've already read one character, next indexing buffer should be 1 because index are 0 indexed. Okay, so I'm pretty sure this is correct. Let me work through my code with small example. Okay, I will read the file abcde with read method, and I will try to read. Oh, yeah, okay. I will try to read, say, 6 characters. Obviously, there aren't so many characters, but I will just try. Okay, so firstly here, read4 count should be 2. And next indexing buffer should be initiated with 0. And in line 51, read4 count should be 2. So I will try this twice. And firstly, in my first step, in line 52, buffer 4 is initiated with none. And read char count should be read4 buffer 4. So now the read4 is called, and read char count should be now 4. And buffer 4 now it becomes A, B, C, D. Yep. Read char count is not less than 4, so I don't break here. And in line 58, read4 buffer 4. Oh, I'm calling it twice. Okay. I have to initiate this buffer 4. So this is a read char. I rename this. So this should be read char should be A, B, C, D in this order. When it is A, read char is not none. Yep. So I go to line 61 and buff next index in buffer 0 should be now A. So I will assume that there enough element here. Okay. So now next index in buffer is incremented by 1, so it becomes 1. Okay, and I will continue the same process for B and C and D. I don't take a look one by one. So basically what happens is that B, C, D is put into the buffer, and every time next index in buffer is incremented by 1, so it becomes 2, 3, and then 4. Okay, so far it's good. And next time when I come back to the line 52, now the second step, yeah, and buffer 4 is incremented with non-array, and in line 54, read char count should be 1, and I read only E. Okay, then in line 56, read char count is not less than 4, and I go to line 59, and read char in buffer 4 should be start with E and known. Yeah, and in the first step, read char is E, it is written into the buffer at index 4, and now next index in buffer becomes 5. Then it's the end, because for the second element read char is none, so I reach the line 61, break and go out. Then that's the end of the iteration. So I go to line 66, 65, and I return 5. Yep, this is as expected, because I wanted to read A, B, C, D, E file. Okay, I'm pretty confident in my implementations. I submit my code. Oh, wrong answer. Maybe this logic is not correct. Must not see when this is 5, read for count should be 2. Yeah. So let me print this out. Yes, this is as expected, but output is only ABCD. Even though I tried and found that the output should be ABCDE here, but it's actually not correct. Let me take a look. Okay, so for this one, I will try to see. Okay, so I will use this test case because this is exactly the test case I just went through, basically. So, oh yeah. So firstly, I will take a look. What are the read char result for each call, and see if they're expected. Okay, here the first call is read char count is 4 and buffer is ABCD. The next call is read char count is 1 and buffer is no. Looks good. So somewhere in this line 57 to 64 should be wrong, or maybe next indexing buffer is written with different value. I will just take a look. And oh, next indexing buffer is now 4. Why is this? Because after finishing the char, reading the char into the buffer, I always increment next indexing buffer. Oh, I see. Wait, the problem is here. I break before reading 0, 1, or 2 or 3 characters in the buffer 4. So this is what is expected, I guess. Okay, good. Yeah, I completely overlooked this. Yeah, in my working through my regret. Okay, so now I submit my code. I see. So I also made one mistake. So when I try to read only 5 characters, definitely I have to finish here, because I finished reading all the characters I want. So what can I do? So here if I've read all the end characters, then I'd like to break, and also I'd like to break from this for loop. Yeah, not so clean. Yeah, okay. But let me do it. So let me focus on passing the test. Okay, accepted. So that being said, let me clean up my code a little bit. So basically, the case I overlooked was the case when, okay, so I can say there are 2 conditions that I finished the iteration. Number 1, I've read enough characters. Number 2, there aren't any more characters in the file. So that being said, yeah. Maybe this is good enough. Next indexing buffer is equal to n. I will break with, and then my break here. Yeah, I think maybe this is good enough. I think it probably this maybe not good. I mean, this isn't necessary, but let me use 2 pointers here. Okay, so this is a case I still have to read more. So in this case, I read the next char. Then I increment I4 and next indexing path. Okay. Oh, it looks pretty clean. Even though the drawback is that the condition of the while statement is a bit ambiguous. Yeah, or I should say a bit wrong. So it is the kind of best practice that I don't put the long, lengthy, conditions expression in here, but maybe it's much more shorter, so maybe better in this case. Okay, let me run my code. Good. So maybe this makes it a little bit easier to read. So the idea is that I use the 2 pointers internally. So I4 is the pointer to the indexing the buffer, and next indexing buffer is the indexing the return buffer. And I will try to keep reading as long as there's any character left to be read in the buffer 4, and also I still need to read more characters. Yeah. So that's it. Okay. That being said, I finished my today's coding practice. Oh, by the way, time complexity should be O of n. Yeah, because I just have to read the n characters. Yeah. In total. So there are n characters read with read4 method in total, and also those n characters are put into the buff returned list. So the time complexity should be O n, and for space complexity I need the buffer 4, and also line 53 I initiate the buffer 4, which is length of 4. So the space complexity should be O of 1 constant. Yeah. Just to be clear, buffer given, the given array buffer is not included in this space complexity, so maybe I should say extra space complexity. Okay, so that being said, I quickly wrap up my test coding practice. So in this question, I'm given a file and I will try to read it with the read method. And I will be given the buffer and number of characters to be read as the add. And I cannot directly read characters from the file. I have to use the interface Read4, which reads only 4 consecutive characters from the file. And the the number of characters read with Read4 is returned, and also the read characters are put into the buffer 4, which is given as the argument. Yeah. So that being said, I implement the read method, and basically what I did was quite simple. So I called the read4 method as long as I still need to read. As long as there are remaining characters to be read, yeah, into perspective. The first perspective is that the read characters, number of read characters reaches n or not. Number 2 is if there are still remaining characters in the file. So these are 2 conditions to decide if I should keep reading. Yep, that's it. So that being said, I finished my today's coding practice. Thank you so much. Bye.